Hello.
Hello.
I wanted to ask if you think enlightenment is a natural state for a human being.
If enlightenment is a natural state for a human being, yes. Okay. Next question. No, it is. So, I mean, the Buddha, there's a nice story. The Buddha was asked, who are you? Are you a god? He said, no. Are you a human? No. So what are you? He said, I am awake. And so enlightenment, I mean, the Buddha, the term, it's, what is the term in Tibetan? Sangye. Yeah, so the full development of our positive qualities and the complete elimination of our negative qualities, our negative states of mind. So presuming that we're not enlightened, then we haven't yet woken up. And it's our potential. It's what we're, like an acorn is a potential oak tree. We as sentient beings are potential Buddhas. That's just what we're capable of. And I would suggest, I mean, it is until such time as we attain it, we're not awake. We're just following mistaken. I mean, Jetsunma is talking about the poisons. As long as the poisons are in the system, then they're going to be causing problems. Like H2O, what is water? It is H2O. What is a sentient being? It is our H2O is our enlightenment. Depending on the different Buddhist traditions, some of them will say we already are enlightened. Others would say we're aiming towards it. It's really just a matter of terminology. I mean, if you're an Olympic athlete, a valid technique for getting you to receive the gold medal is to visualize yourself receiving it in advance. I mean, it's been proven that does shift your capacity to actually achieve the gold medal. So, you know, it's fair as well to say that we already are enlightened. That doesn't mean that there isn't work to do, but yeah. Okay?
And Abba?
Hello.
Hi.
Can practice be harmful under certain circumstances?
Can we practice being harmful under certain circumstances?
No, is practice himself or someone, say, who is not ready or under any other circumstances?
Can it be harmful?
Be harmful?
Can practice be harmful?
Yes, in itself.
Well, what do you mean by practice?
Meditation, for
Yep.
instance.
Yes, it can. I mean, Jetsunma again said this morning, you know, we know there's a lot of research suggesting that that meditation is good for you, that it can lower your cholesterol, your blood pressure, and so on. But meditation is also not therapy. In Tibetan, the word means to become familiar. And so what we're doing is to become familiar with who we really are. I have a friend who's a therapist, and she's also a Buddhist. And she says that therapy transforms our nightmare into a dream, and Buddhism wakes us up from the dream. So if our mental state is one of you know, being a nightmare, then to meditate, you may dredge up a lot of stuff that's really, you know, very, very difficult to deal with. So what we're trying to do is to let me see if I can remember. Tame, train, transform and transcend the mind. So that very first point of taming it is indicating that it's out of control. And so the degree to which it's out of control, you could get yourself into a lot of trouble with meditation. It's not to say not to do it, but to recognize that it's just one aspect of what we're doing. I mean, Jetsunma says that first we have to have a healthy sense of an ego before we can annihilate the ego. But first you have to have a good sense of what we're capable of, and having a confidence in that. And I mean, in relation to, enlightenment, I mean, for the Tibetans in general, they have a very good sense of their capacity. They have a confidence in who they are. I don't know about the Israelis, but in the West, I mean, maybe a show of hands. Do you have a confidence in yourself, or this idea of low self-esteem, which pervades many cultures? If that's prevalent, then you can get into trouble. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Daim? Yes?
Sorry, just going back to the H2O for a minute. I was saying, like the nature of the mind is like H2O. Because if we don't know that, if we don't recognize that that's who we really are, that we are genuinely, that we're defined by our goodness, we're constantly trying to add things. Like we've got this H2O, but it's polluted. And so all we're doing is adding things to make, so that you don't taste the pollution. Put a little sugar in, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. We keep adding things to try and compensate for something that feels flawed. But really all we have to do is just remove the flaws. They can be removed, and then it's just there naturally.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Shiri. Practice can bring you a lot of joy, but I wanted to ask you specifically in this country, because of a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I found it very hard sometimes to be joyful. Yeah, some hard feelings come because of many hard situations. So I wanted to know if you have some insights about that.
So your
About
question.
how can you be joyful?
Yep.
In a stressed country with a lot of issues.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. How can you be joyful when you're living in a stressful country where there? Yep. I think there is so much that we have which we completely take for granted. We don't even see it. I mean, look at these amazing flowers. They're a miracle in themselves. We all have a comfortable seat. The weather is very nice. I just had a delicious lunch. I ordered a double espresso. I got 4 times the amount I ordered. So there is so much that we have to that we can appreciate, and if we focused on that, on appreciation and gratitude, I think joy would follow. I think it would come. And I mean, the Buddha is saying that the greatest meditation would be on death and impermanence. If we really understood that we are impermanent and that death will come, we would wake up more and be more appreciative of what we do have. And so it's in small things. I mean, yes, there are problems. It's not to pretend that they're not there. But as Jetsunma is saying also, the very fact that we know that there are problems, we can work with them. We can use them to transform our minds. Because problems are going to come. There's no, we don't have to go out looking for them. They will come. But it's how we respond to them that's important. And if we can respond to them skillfully and constructively, we're growing ourselves. We're growing our own ability to align ourselves more with our natural state, which is joyful. The joy is there. We don't have to create it or manufacture it. We just have to keep tapping into it and aligning ourselves with what is true, what is accurate. And it will just naturally come. It'll grow.
I am Palestinian woman, live in Israel. אני רוצה לשאול אותה, איך אפשר ללכת ולהגיד לעם הפלסטינאים, לדות על החיים שלו, איך אפשר שיגיד תודה, איך אפשר לעם כזה, כבוש, יש בו המון המון עצב, דברים קשים, להגיד לו, אתה תגיד תודה, איך אפשר להגיד את זה?
Janet is asking,
Yeah.
how can you come to the Palestinian people and tell them something like you suggested before, that you should be thankful and grateful when there is so much sadness and problems, and really deep, the situation is so grave. And how can you suggest to them to be happy or to be joyful or to be grateful?
I think Jetsunma said I was just meant to answer questions related to the text this morning. I just remembered that. Yeah, no, I mean, I look. That's a question that I would, it would take me a lot longer to think about. But the first thought I had about it, I used to visit prisons. Yeah, I visited prisons in Australia, and I mean, in that situation, I got to meet a lot of people who, well, first of all, are living a very different reality to the one that I understand. And it took me some time, but as time passed, I began to realize more and more that I could not be so presumptuous or arrogant to assume that I had any idea what it was like for them to live there. I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a Palestinian, to live under those extreme conditions. From a I mean, I can only speak about my own experience, and to know that when I am aware of the suffering of others, I can only use it to try and make myself a better person, and hope that in doing that eventually I'm going to have some capacity to help them. The last time we came to Israel, we visited the nuns in Mount Carmel, a Catholic nunnery, and they're a closed order. And they told us that an Arab family came to visit, and there was a young teenage boy, and he said to the abbess, so what's the point of your life? What are you doing here? And she said, we pray. And he said, okay, so what are you praying for? And she said, we're praying for Israel. We're praying every day. And he said, well, it's obviously not working. And she said, Okay. So what do you think would happen if I stopped praying? And he was quiet for a while and he said, keep praying. Yeah. So I know I'm not answering the question, and I don't know. Yeah. You know, just another, when I first went to India, and I saw people on the street, you know, everybody's got their hand out, needs food, there are people dying, there's all of this incredible suffering happening. And I had all sorts of reactions. I didn't know how to do anything. And then I was reading some book, and in some African language, the word hello literally translates as I see you. And I thought, that's all I can do. When I've, you know, there's somebody in front of me who's in this awful suffering, if I can just look at them and say, I see you, without trying to fix it, or I'm sorry it's happening, or whatever, just that, I see you. Yeah.
Thank you. עוד שאלות?
Hey.
Hi.
How can I come maybe to volunteer in your nunnery in India?
Okay. So the question was how to volunteer.
To volunteer or to
Or to
learn?
visit. Yeah, or to learn. Okay. So Jetsunma's nunnery in northern India has a guest house which has got 5 rooms, so please don't all come at the same time. But we do have a guest house, and men and women are welcome. We also have a retreat center, which is women only. As far as volunteering, it can happen, but there's not a lot of volunteer opportunities because the nuns are following a full-time study program. It's a monastic university, so they're following an academic year. And we do have people that will come and offer yoga or teaching English or, you know, computer skills or whatever. But it's always tricky to find the right time that it fits in, and so I would say it's very limited, the opportunities for volunteering. But we do find ways. I mean, one example, we had somebody in America who was sending a weekly news bulletin of what was, you know, events that are happening in the world. And we were posting that on the nuns' notice board, just so that, you know, when we pray for all sentient beings, then there's this recognition of what might actually be happening to all sentient beings. So there are some ways. Jetsunma doesn't teach at the nunnery, but she does teach at Dharma centers that are near the nunnery. One in Dharamsala, the Tushita Center, and the other Deer Park Institute, which is connected to Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche, who's coming soon. So they're both about 40 minutes away from the nunnery. So you can just check on the schedule. There's many other places that you can visit in that area as well and volunteer, including the Tushita Center in Deer Park, which both have really, really very good programs of study and practice, and many wonderful monasteries and nunneries, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama gives teachings regularly. So there's a lot to do. Leora has been there you've been many times. So, and now you have a direct flight. Yeah, okay. Up there.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you give some advice about how to balance between meditation and mundane life, between the yin and yang?
I've missed out. Give advice on?
How to balance meditation and mundane life, the everyday the yin and the yang,
Yeah.
so to speak. These things.
Yep.
The spiritual and very often, at least in countries like Israel, not India, very earthy, very down-to-earth living.
Yep.
Which sometimes can be conflicting.
Yep.
So,
Okay, so how to bring Dharma into everyday life? How to balance meditation and mundane activity?
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it more precise, but it's like in my head altogether.
Yep.
These things, they are somehow one question.
Okay. Well, you're all here, so you're all making use of this opportunity to bring Dharma into your lives. You're listening to the advice coming from Jetsunma. So all of this is something that we can take back into our everyday lives with us. I mean, even going to India, as Jetsunma said, she said it here, I think, didn't she? There's not that many people that actually do go off up into the mountain retreat. For most people, even in the nunnery, I mean, the nuns have a very busy schedule. Just recently, we were organizing. They've got two. As Jetsunma said, they have a 2-month retreat during the year, and we were trying to introduce more meditation to other retreats. Is this live webcast, by the way? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So when we wanted to bring in 2 further meditation retreats during the year, the nuns were saying, we're too busy, we can't do it. So it happens to everybody. We're all very busy. The common advice that's given is to go to bed a little bit earlier, get up a little bit earlier, and just do it. Do a short practice. Jetsuma's teacher, the Kamtrul Rinpoche, whose commentary, the teaching she's giving commentary on, I mean, he said to her very early on, just choose a simple practice, but do it. So we have to do enough that's. I mean, it's easy to go off on a retreat, even if it's a short retreat, and come back and go, that's it, I'm getting up at 5 o'clock every morning, I'm on that cushion for 2 hours, and nothing's going to move me. And by day 3, it's like, what? Did I say that? So you have to start small and keep it achievable. But trusting also that it's very powerful, and you don't need to do that much. It's like Jetsunma often uses the analogy of putting yeast into dough. You just need a very little bit, and then it permeates the whole day, even if we're not sort of consciously thinking of it. But it's like it's a bookend at either end of the day, just a short amount of practice at the beginning of the day, and setting your motivation for the day. It's like setting the GPS. Then get on with the day. Take little breaks during the day and go, okay, how's it going? You can have, these things, you can get the little meditation bell. That's just, it doesn't mean that you drop everything, go, okay, everybody stop talking to me, I'm about to meditate. But you're just hearing that sound, and it's reminding you, come back, what's happening? Check what's happening in the mind. As Jetsunma was talking about earlier also, we can start to use what we're learning here to then, when you go out into the world, somebody cuts in front of you in traffic, there's a reaction. That's okay. But once the reaction has passed, just take a look at it and go, okay, so what was happening there? And trying to do that without judgment, to do it with some compassion for yourself and a sense of humor. Because we need to become our own scientist. We have to start assessing and recognizing what's coming up in the mind. And we need other people around us to do that. It's very, very, very easy to be a really holy person if there's nobody around you. So we should, when you have reactions, good. Then you're seeing what's happening. And so this is the practice. It's the practice is what's happening every moment. What we have to be trying to cultivate is awareness of it, recognizing it, without judging it. And the more that we just see it, and see it with curiosity, because we want to learn about it. We want to see the mess, but again, we have to be able to see it and recognize that it's not what defines us. It's not who we really are. We're just looking at it and going, oh, there's anger, there's jealousy, there's depression. And see it with love, see it with compassion, see it with a sense of humor, recognizing that this is the same, that everybody else has got it. And then slowly, 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 slowly. It does take a very, 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 very long time. But if we keep chipping away at it little by little by little by little, then the confidence can keep growing as well. And when you can, take little breaks, come to weekends like this, connect with a Dharma group, don't get involved in the politics, just, cultivate harmony. Don't be surprised if there's politics in a Dharma center. When you bring human beings together, it happens. But don't get distressed by that. Just keep doing your practice, keep doing your practice. But it is very powerful to come together as a group. And you can do that online now as well. It doesn't have to be. But, wherever you can, come together as a group too. That really helps.
Thank you.
And then at the end of the day, you can just assess how was that, pick out a few good points, a few points where you can improve more. Again, just keep it short and don't judge it, but just assess it and reaffirm where you want to go again tomorrow. Set the GPS back on track.
Hi. You keep mentioning without judgment.
Yep.
I find that judgment arises all the time.
Yep.
Judgment, disappointment from myself, from other things or people that I care about.
Yep.
And I also know that I do know what is the antidote: compassion, forgiveness. But it keeps coming up again and again and again for years.
Yep.
And I find that the effect on me is, again, disappointment and discouragement. Sometimes losing faith.
Sometimes?
Losing faith.
Losing faith, yep.
And I wonder, what is your advice for that?
Never give up. As you're speaking, I identify with every single bit of it. The same words, the same thoughts are in my own mind. And one of the images I have is of a bucket, and you've got a drip of water going in all the time. And so I do have if you can grow the recognition that we are defined by our positive states of mind, if we really logically and emotionally can see that is true, if that is valid, then it does follow that we can grow that, no matter how far it looks like we are from that. So I have an image of a bucket, and every analogy is limited, so we kind of have to be a little bit, relaxed about comparing ourselves to a big metal bucket. So you've got this drop of water going in, each positive thought And I trust that, I mean, again, like the yeast in the bread, I trust that because the positive thoughts are true and valid and have a basis, they have a logical basis to them, I trust that they are very powerful. Even if most of the time you don't see them, or you're focused on the negativities. But they don't have a logical basis to them. You can eradicate them. So you've got this drop of water going into the bucket all the time. Thing is, I don't know how big the bucket is, and I don't know how fast the drips of water are going. But there has to be a point where suddenly the bucket is full. It just has to be the case. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know how big the bucket is. I don't know how many drops of water are going in. Or is there a leak? I don't know. But forget the leak. That's where the analogy goes. Or let's fix the leak, whatever. But there has to be a point where a little bit like the Berlin Wall, suddenly, boom, it's gone. I just think that if we keep practicing, no matter how many times you fall off, no matter how many times, the judgment doesn't, the judgment is also coming from a mistake. Can I talk about Jesus here? Yeah. So Jesus on the cross said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That's beyond judgment. It's a mistake. He said, "Forgive them, they don't know what they're doing." And I remember watching a documentary about, what were they called? The skinheads, the nationalists in England. And they followed them over a period of decades. And it was a very interesting documentary. And so one of them ended up in prison sharing a cell with a black guy. And he came out of that and he went, "I love him, he's my friend." And when he reflected back on his extreme days, he said, "I thought I was doing good. I really believed I was doing good." So I'd like to think that he had gone beyond judgment. He wasn't judging himself back then. He was just seeing that he had progressed, and the logical conclusion was that we're all the same. And yeah, the judgment doesn't have a logical basis to it. No matter how much it feels like it has a grip on us, we can eventually dissolve it. So just never give up.
Thank you.
The coffee's wearing off.
Hello, and thank
Hi.
you. I'd like to ask something that is maybe basic or fundamental. You keep saying, and it seems to be the premise, that human nature is good,
Yep.
is kind. And
Yep.
yet, when we look around and even look inwards, there's much evidence to the contrary.
Yep.
And you say, but this is the valid, this
Yeah.
carries validity, and the other assumptions don't. Why? Or what is the source of the validity?
Why not?
So it's a choice? We choose to
No,
believe that this is
no.
valid because the other option brings pain and suffering? Or is it a logical premise that we build upon?
Yeah, Venerable Rabina has this, she's been here, yeah, Venerable Rabina. So she has this, she says, and I hear this as an equation, the extent to which we are out of sync with reality is the extent to which we suffer, and therefore cause harm to others. When His Holiness the Dalai Lama is asked, what's the purpose of life? It's to be happy. So that's our capacity. That's our, you can check that. You can see that we're constantly adjusting ourselves to avoid suffering. I'm getting uncomfortable, so I start doing this, or we're constantly trying to either remove suffering or cultivate a happy state of mind. But if our methodology is not on track, it's never going to work. So this is what Venerable Rabbeinu is saying. The extent, I mean, it's a little bit like going off to do advanced maths with this idea that 1 + 1 is 3. Everything will, it's not going to work. So if we take it as a given that our capacity is to be happy, then if it's true that that's our capacity, then it would follow that there must be a method that's actually going to bring genuine happiness. And I mean, you can argue, if we asked every single person in this room what is happiness, everybody's going to have a different answer. I guess it has to be evidence-based. It has to come through direct experience. And if you look to, maybe if you can even find one exception to the rule, then that's showing us that there's a different way. I mean, you were asking the question about the Palestinians. If you went and took a sample group of the Palestinians that we have in our mind as the group that are oppressed and suffering, you will find one that's happy. You will find one that wakes up in the morning and looks at the roses and goes, oh my God, they're so beautiful. And who has appreciation and who has joy and who has love, because you can respond differently to the shit that gets thrown at you, and you can grow it. And I mean, we're talking about the examples of someone like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I'm curious about them. I'm interested in them. And I'm holding them as role models for something that can be achieved. I don't know if it's true or not. To be honest, I don't know. I'm holding it as a hypothesis. But I think it's for so far so good. It's a hypothesis that I think is worth pursuing. But really, I mean, when I'm talking about logic and so on, we all know airplanes work because we've been in them. But how many of us in this room could actually build one? So it's still based on faith. I'm trusting that somebody else can do it, and I'll just, it'll take me from here to here. But I'm relying on the expertise of others. And the same with happiness. I mean, at the moment, my mind it doesn't wake up in a state of spontaneous joy. But I do still trust that I'm capable of that. So I just got to keep going and see what happens. Does that help at all? Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
In the last few months of my life, I started to experience time in a different way that the way I experienced it before.
Yeah.
And it opened my eyes. And I started to think that if I experience time different now, so everyone in this room experienced time in a different way. And maybe not only time, maybe also space and colors and I don't know, everything. So each one of us has a different picture of reality in their mind. And even people that are close to me, like my brother, have really different way that they are experience time and reality and space and everything. So my question is, how can we have a real deep relationship between two people or three people or between people, if each one of us has a different way
Yep.
that we perceive the reality and the world.
Yep, it's true. Next question. Yeah, I mean, I think it is a very big question, and it's not one that Jetsunma covered in the text either this morning. How to I mean, I was saying about the power of a positive state of mind. I think that they are very powerful. Even, I think Lama Zopa Rinpoche says something like, even one moment of kindness is a miracle. Because we're operating on, I mean, you're talking about conventional reality, relative truth.
Yes.
Yeah. And as I was saying earlier, if we asked everybody in the room their definition of happiness, everybody's got a different view on it. So, in the Four Noble Truths, you've got what are called the Four Noble Truths: the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering. What are the other ones? The path and cessation and the path. So, thank you. So what you're describing in conventional reality, it's in the realm of suffering. And again, as I was saying earlier, that's out of sync with reality, out of sync with ultimate truth. And so we're just constantly bumping into each other. And if you have a moment of a positive quality arising, of love, of compassion, of generosity, and the person you're with happens to have a positive moment arising as well, we'll be okay. We're going to get on together. But if something negative is arising, and then our mind kicks in, I don't like what he just said, and all these opinions are just, they're cramming, they're destroying us. They're going on all the time. How do I feel about that? What do I think about that? If we've got everything else taken care of, we have a roof over our heads, we've got clothes, we've got food. So then the mental suffering is going to just go berserk. That's why I was thinking of the Four Noble Truths, because there are different levels of suffering. But suffering is going to find its way out somewhere, whether it's on the mental sphere or on the physical, like not having enough to eat or being in a war zone or whatever. But as long as we're in samsara, it is a suffering state. So there's no way for us to make samsara work. And that's actually a huge realization. We can go, yeah. But if I had this, or if I could do that, then I'll be okay. So our biggest delusion is towards our own state of suffering. And as long as we keep trying to make samsara work, we're just going to keep bumping into other people as well. Because everybody's going around going 1 + 1 is 3. And then we're trying to prove it to each other. And it's just nuts. It's not going to work. But that's the first thing that's compassion for yourself, is when you really get the fact that it's just not going to work and you've got to find another way. You've got to find a genuine way to get beyond that conventional understanding. But your question is very, 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 very big, and you just have to keep. You'll keep. If you keep following the Dharma, you'll find answers for it. But also relax about it too, because it's just in the nature of the mind to be, constantly active, and that's not the whole picture. There's so much more. And so rather than focusing on why is it this way, just get out of it. Again, Jetsunma often tells the story of the Buddha was saying, if you get shot by an arrow, you don't go, oh, so who shot the arrow and what was the arrow made from, and I wonder how long is it, and forget all of that. Just get the arrow out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm not sure I'm translating it right, but I would like to ask what's the difference between mercy and compassion?
Mercy.
Maybe feeling sorry for someone or for yourself.
Pity? Yeah, someone said pity.
Yeah.
Do you
Yes.
think pity?
Yeah.
Yeah. So compassion. Compassion is recognizing the suffering of another and wishing for them to be free of it, or recognizing our own suffering and having the wish to be free of it. Again, that's... I'd need to know what your definition of pity is. That we are equal with each other. Yeah, I am. So go.
I think maybe feeling sorry for someone else or for myself, and being a part of this, of his or her suffering.
So the person behind you is going like this. So it's recognizing that again we're all in this together, and I mean, some people may look like they are. We can be free of a particular type of suffering for sure, but that doesn't mean that we're free of suffering. So oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. You'll know in your own mind. You've got to know in your own mind what the motivation is behind something. I mean, we were talking today about listening with bodhicitta. So if I hear of another person suffering, if I can just, and like I was saying earlier with saying, I see you. It's just to be with the suffering, recognizing that it's there, but not from a perspective of, I'm really sorry you're suffering, just glad it's not me. Or, how lucky you are, I'm here to fix it. Aren't you? You're very lucky that I can do that for you. It's just recognizing that we all have this. Pity gives me the idea that I'm better. I'm better than you. But you're very lucky because I'm such a nice person that I'm just going to, sweetheart, I'm so sorry for you. Just really glad it's not me. It's not true. I mean, compassion again, it's a spontaneous arising, a recognition of the suffering, but not an ownership of the suffering.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, beyond judgment. Are we out of time, do you think? One more.
Hi.
Hello.
I would like to ask you, what do you think about bringing the practice to group that didn't choose to practice? Like, for example, prisoners, that somebody in the prison decided this group needs to practice?
The group?
Yeah, a group of prisoners, for example. Or a group of teachers in school, like that the head minister decide that they should practice.
Yeah,
so
it's very difficult. I think it's. So you've all heard the question. Like, can you bring?
Yeah. What do you think about it? If it's possible, and if you have any advice for these kinds of groups.
Well, when I was going into the prison, it was always. I never had to, that I'm aware of. These guys had a choice about coming. I know Venerable Rabina talked about going into a prison once where it was a room full of prisoners who were told they had to be there, and she said the energy was really different. I mean, we know it ourselves. How many times we've been preached to. I mean, even our mothers, telling us, do this, do that. Or we have that phrase, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. There's a story of, I think, some people running to the Buddha seeking help because they were somebody was chasing them to kill them, and they were clinging to his robes, but they still got killed. You have to lead by example. You have to lead by your own. I mean, if you, I don't know if you have a particular scenario in mind. Do you? Are you thinking of a particular?
I do, yeah. I do have group in a prison which they didn't choose to come to the group.
So why are they there? No, I mean, why are they in the group?
Because somebody in the prison decided that they should come to the group to practice. It will be helpful for them.
And what's the group called? What's it?
Meditation.
Meditation
group, yeah. And also in schools for teachers, in primary, high schools, for the teachers.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if anybody's got advice to give her, please do. I'm thinking maybe if I was in that situation, I'd probably start by saying, look, I know that a lot of you don't want to be here. I understand that. And just name it. So that you can at least give them that recognition. And then tell them that it's up to them whether they want to take anything from it or not. But that from your side, you're not trying to, I mean, it's entirely up to them whether they want to pay attention to anything that you're telling them. I mean, Buddhism doesn't proselytize. It's not possible. I mean, we all have to come to this ourselves.
Thank you.
Sorry? Yeah, a meditation group. I know, but yeah, you can say all of that. You can say it's only meditation, but again, what does meditation mean to every single person in the room? There's all of these connotations there. I mean, look. Again, the bottom line is that each of us has to get ourselves enlightened. We can't tell anybody, is enlightened a Buddhist term? I mean, it's in its developing our positive states of mind. We each have to do the job ourselves. Nobody else can force us or give us a pill that's going to be able to do it. But if somebody is being told they have to attend a group, then the only thing that's going to make it work for them is for them to own it for themselves. How you can help them to feel that, just say, look, let's just give it a try. But the fact is, you're going to have to sit here for the next hour because somebody else told you. I'm sorry, but that's how it is, and let's see how, maybe you can take something home from it, maybe not. But I think you have to allow them to make, or at least say to them, it's your choice. You can have a nap for the next hour if you want to, that's fine. Maybe you can take something out of it, who knows? Time to finish?
Thank you, Aileen.
Thank you very much. And my apologies. Take it all, may you get good guidance from Jetsunma this afternoon. Thank you.